for joining this session concerning about the Power Apps portal and news. It was a solo session, but when I noticed that it's only 20 minutes, so I tried to to focus on the news that we have around the portal. So I'll start by presenting myself. I'm a Power Platform Technical Architect and a Power Apps Fast Track Recognized Solution Architect at Havana, France. And I work mainly on different projects as an architect or a tech lead. Well, big thanks to all of our sponsors for this event and especially the organizers for the job they did. As I mentioned before, I didn't really put an agenda with different steps and things that I will be presenting. I preferred to do it differently because we are talking about the tools that we use in the Power Apps portal project. So I highlighted the Power Apps life cycle of a project. When we usually start a project, we start by configuring it using the out-of-the-box features and using the model-driven app that gets installed automatically. We also, in some context and depending on the requirements, might need to develop some advanced code and advanced templates for that. And once we have the requirements, we need to beautify it and change the branding depending on the customer. And once all is done and developed, we will for sure ask ourselves the question whether how to take it from an instance to another instance, from idea to a test. And once all is deployed and live where users are connecting, we will for sure need to monitor and see if it's really used or no, and how it's used, and what are the points that we need to improve. So the purpose of this session is to go on each step and check what are the main tools that we will have to use and what are the recent announcements, especially on the Wave 2. So the first thing is the portal management model-driven app. So it's an app that gets installed automatically with different sections where you can manage the websites that we have in our W365 Dataverse instance. The content with the basic forms and lists that we can configure, and there's also the web template. The security part with different entity permissions and web roles and our contacts in the portal. The knowledge base article, the ads, and the administration part. So it's basically our starting point. It's here where you can find different site settings and the configuration from the out-of-the-box point of view. In the context of the configuration with features that we can enable and use with a simple way now, we have the relevant search that is coming on December 2021, which will allow us to get more consistent results, and it will provide us an enhanced capabilities. We will also have the option to search on multiple tables and multiple columns, which is not possible today with the default search experience that we have. And the release note mentions that this relevant search, as it is in the Dataverse, will mainly replace the current search that we are having in the Power Apps. Well, to be honest, it's a good news because the current search doesn't really search pretty well. We have the integration with the chatbot. So previously we had to take a code and to configure that and set up the chatbot in our Power Apps portal. But with this feature, you will just configure it. So you link your Power Apps portal to the chatbot that you want to use. You can even have the possibility to configure it in one page or all of the pages in the portal. So with this, we can improve the customer experience, the user experience by providing the chatbot to answer the frequent questions. Don't hesitate to ask me directly your questions if you have, or keep it as you want. In the recent announcements also, we have this feature that is in general availability since May 2021. It's the ability to integrate the Power BI, the Power BI dashboards that are using the live connections with the Azure Analysis services, and also the possibility to pass parameters custom data in order to customize more the reports shown for the users. always in the context of announcements for the configuration part, we have the choices multi-select columns. So previously, well, until now, when we have a multi-select columns feed in the Dataverse and displayed in the portal, it shows up like a speak list with single choice. But with this feature, we will be able to have the experience of selecting multiple responses as we configured in the Dataverse. Yes, I just highlight here that it will work for the multi-select columns defined in the Dataverse and not in other sources if we are using the API or something like that. So it was the last new feature announced for the configuration part. I will pass now to the development, the customization. So it's the advanced options that we have for the Power Apps portal development. Sometimes with the current requirement, with the requirement of the customer, we cannot just use the out-of-the-box configuration. So we have to create our web templates with the liquid code, some specific web pages, and some specific integrations. And the question is always how to do that, because doing that in the model-driven app with the autosave that gets triggered every time, and when you just click on backspace, you lose everything, you lose all the content that you had. It was just not possible for me to develop there. So this is previously, I used to use this plugin in Instagram Toolbox, the portal code editor, which allows me to have all the code that I have in my portal, even for the web files that are nodes in the web files. I had access to the code and I could directly update it here and push the code once I finish and once I'm sure that I want to push that in my dev and test it. This was previously, because now with the Microsoft Power Platform CLI, we have a better experience. Because now, for example, in my team I have 3 or 4 developers, and when we are all working on the same web template, we don't have a really good experience for the source code versioning. So you don't know who has modified what and why. So with this one, every developer can create the branch. I work on my branch on the offline-like mode. I test all of my code directly here, and when all it's done, I create my pull request, and then I approve it, and I have a real source code versioning experience. What I can add on this? Yes, and to simplify things here, we have a public. We have an extension that is in public preview in the visual code that will help you to do all the things. I really count that it takes almost 30 minutes to configure all that, but you optimize your time to know who is doing what and why we changed and why the portal is not working anymore, or our web template is not updated anymore. Yes, when we extend our portal, we always have customers saying that, yes, but this works on the model-driven app, why you can't just do it in the portal? You said that it's the same forms between them both, so why you cannot just use different components? So now with the PCF portals, with the availability of the PCF in the portal, we can optimize more our forms and put some cool PCF and presentations in our form. But it has some limitations. It's now, for now, it only supports the feed and not the datasets. I hope that the datasets will come in the future. The portal API. I highlighted 2 points in this slide. So I have the portal API and the portal API helper. For the portal API, it appeared last year to be able to do the post queries into the Dataverse. Because before we just had to pass by the entity form to submit the data and write the data in the Dataverse. So with the Power Apps portal API, we could do the post operation to create records and update them, but there were the get missing. Because if you want just to retrieve the data from your Power Apps portal, the only way was to create a web template, do the fetch XML, and then the web page. So it was so long steps just to make a get call and get all the context, for example. So here with the get operation, this will simplify things. And also the custom actions, because we had no way to put some inputs and get outputs from the Dataverse database. I highlight also in this the Power Apps Portal API Helper, which is a plugin in the XLM toolbox. It's very helpful because, especially when you want to use the API for the first time, because it enables the API for the entity for you directly, updates the site settings for that. It sets different fields that you select, so it enables the API only for the specific fields that we have mentioned. And you even get a sample of the post code that you just need to put in the snippet, and then you call it in your web template. Yes, this was the last announcement that I have seen a few days ago. It's about the web files that are migrating to the real file column type. Today, all of our files, JavaScript or CSS that we use to customize our portal are stored. Well, I don't really know what to do. Okay, what is that? It has gone. Okay. So all the files are stored in the attachments. We have an entity called web file, and all the files we upload them in the record web files in the attachments and the notes. So by February 2022, we will pass to a real field that is a file type column. And the release note mentioned that this will include a one-time attachment migration. So I think that we will have a tool or a plugin that we will just run it one shot to get all of our nodes, old attachments, into our the new field column file column type. We'll pass now for the Beautify, and I have a small error there. To beautify the portal, I mentioned also by that the content, also to update the content, because sometimes, especially when we are just developers or tech working on the tech part, we have always the content and the look and feel that we don't really do it with the great way as our customers want. So usually they can use the Power Apps Studio portal, which gives a user experience, a user-friendly display, so that they can update themselves the content and the look and feel. All what I have mentioned in the first one, the portal management model-driven app, can be done also here, but probably because I have almost did my previous jobs in the portal model-driven app, I feel it more simple for me than passing by here. But it depends on what you prefer to use to customize the portal. We have the Power Apps Studio permissions, entity permissions that you can configure here. Well, the feature exists since always on the portal to configure the portal web roles and entity permissions. The add value here is that it's inside the Power Apps Studio management, and you can really see the hierarchy between your entity permissions. So you know what is the entity permission that you first configured. I can see all the contacts related to my account. And after that, I want to see only the cases related to those contacts, so you can see the hierarchy between your different entity permissions. So it's better when you work on the entity permissions, especially that they are not really simple. Sometimes to debug it's a little bit hard. After that, we have the deployment. So the deployment, it's like the portal code editor. I used to use something, but a few months ago I changed my mind and started using something else. So previously, when you finish all of your developments and you want to move from the dev to the INT environment or the test environment, the only way I had, well, there were two ways: the data migration tools that we use generally for the Dataverse to migrate data, and we had also this portal code mover. The add value of this comparing to other tools is that this will disable the plugins that will block you from importing the web pages, for example, as you are not supposed to have two web pages with the same path. So this disables those plugins, import your data, and after that reactivate them again. So the only way you need to do when you want to deliver your portal, you just connect to your instance. You select. Okay, I think that we'll try to finish this session. So you export your data in a file, and after that you import it back in order to deliver it in the new organization, a new instance. But now with the Power Apps CLI, you can just use the Power Platform Build Tools extension in Azure DevOps and you create your pipelines and your releases in order to deploy automatically, and you don't really check and export manually the file. We have also the possibility to create deployment profiles. I think that Microsoft published recently an article that mentions step-by-step how to create the deployment profile and make a specific type for each environment, so to apply different specific profile per environment. Once all is deployed and live, once all is deployed and live, the question is always, is it really used? How people are using it, and how can I do to improve the use of my portal? We have two ways to monitor the portal. So the first one, it's using the Azure Application Insight. So by this, when you activate this part, you will get really a detailed idea about people are connecting to the portal and what are they using exactly. So you can get the sessions, where are they based, the different pages that they have checked, and the time they spent on each page. And even when you click on the page, you see how they are navigating, whether they are going to the home page and directly to the checkout page. If they go just to the home page, the profile page, and they leave your portal. And by this, the business analysts can check this and analyze to see what are the improvements that you can do in your portal, because sometimes you want them to click on the button buy, but they just don't see it because it's not really positioned well in the portal. So it allows you to change how your portal is displayed and the features that you are suggesting in your portal. The second part is most of the time technical. So it's for developers or technical tech people in the project when they just send you this image saying that the portal doesn't work anymore and I have this page. So when you get this and your portal is not configured to store the logs in the Azure Blob Storage, you will not get anything and you will not be able to have them. So the first thing to do, especially in the production environment, is to associate the portal to the Azure Blob Storage account to be able to see the logs and what's going on and why they are getting errors. And the last part is the management of the portal. So it's the classic Power Apps Portal Admin Center that will help you to do several things. For example, restarting the portal, enabling the maintenance page when you are deploying something and you don't want people to use the portal because it might cause some problems. You can change the URL of the portal, install the SSL certificates and the custom domain. We have also the integration with SharePoint and the Power BI. And also we can apply IP restrictions here. For example, if you want people just to use it internally and you don't want to publish it for all of people because you are doing a small phase of testings with a specific client and not everyone can use it. And I will finish by the licensing because it's a recent check that we need to do now for the licensing, because it's always complicated, the licensing with the portal. But now I think that we are getting things clearer by this, because for each instance we can check the capacity logins For example, I bought 5,000 logins capacity, so I can assign and say that for the dev I have only 200, for the production I have 4,000. And I noticed recently that there are even some articles mentioning that there is a link between the Azure resources assigned to your portal and the logins that you have selected. So the advice is that if you are facing some performance issues in productions, check those assigned logins that are assigned to your portal, because I think behind that Microsoft adjusts the Azure resources and the web app that are assigned to your portal. Well, that was all for this session. It was quick. Usually I do it in more details for each step and I integrate the Power BI and SharePoint and details. But here, as it was a 20-minute session, I tried to do it to do a short session by specifying only the most important thing, especially probably for someone who has just started using the portal. So what you need to care about and what you need to know. Do you have questions? I hope it was important and helpful for you.
Do you know if the new field type of file, is that going to be available to use on a portal page? As it for a user to upload a Word document, for example?
I think it's even available. If you create now in your entity, you have a field that is it doesn't show up.
It shows up in the database, but when you try to add that field to a portal page, it's not available.
No, for this one, I don't know, because the one that I highlighted now, it's on the web file, so
yes.
As an administrator. Yeah. But I think you can make a trick to make it work, because it's just about uploading the file. Probably you can have a customizable template to make it work.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but like that I have never tried to do, but I didn't really read that in the release notes. I think that here I have grouped all what has been announced in the Wave 2 until now. And the last one that I have seen was migrating to the file type.
Files.
Yeah. Well.
Can I ask? So, I mean, basic question, because I've only looked a little bit at portals. But like, what are good use cases to use portals? Where would you say, like, for a business or a client, like, why would you use a portal app?
We most of the time use it for the self-customer service.
Customer service.
So when you have a ticketing, for ticketing portal where people connect and just submit a case because, you sell phones and their phones are not working anymore. So it's the most frequent use case. We have also the field services, because now we are more and more using the field services model, and it has some features. And recently, even in the field services, they announced the self-scheduling. So now customers, if you develop the portal, customers are able to go to the portal and check the availability, if there are some resources available to help them, and book directly for them. So it's the most frequent use case. I think that I worked on 5 or 6 portal projects, and most of them was about the same use case, ticketing and cases, and how can I help my customers to book and get directly the...
And so they are external, right? So they would be more exposed to external
most of the time
customers.
It's external, yeah, exactly. For internal ones, I think that probably it's just to optimize licenses. But normally there are some templates that you cannot really use when you are internal, because it's supposed to be for external customers. And if you are internal, you are supposed to take employee template, I think, or something like that, to be aligned with the Microsoft licensing. It could be possible after all. I think there is no technical limitations, because there is no way, I think, to guess whether you are internal or not. Yes. That's right.
Just learning it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Well done.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.